Hey, what's going on, friends? My name is John Walden. I'm a filmmaker based in New York, and today I want to talk about the FX6 Mark II. Now, I don't know when this camera is going to be made, if it's ever going to be made, but I kind of wanted to make a video to kind of open up a discussion about some needs and some wants about this potential camera. And before we even get started, is the FX6 still a good buy in 2024? Yes. Will the FX6 be a good buy in 2025? Yes. This camera is an absolute workhorse. I have thrown so many different things at it over the course of almost 4 years, and it's always performed. It's never failed me. Anything from documentaries, corporate video, commercials, events, music videos, whatever, this camera has performed, and it's truly my favorite camera I've ever owned. So if you're looking into this camera, let's say you're shooting on a smaller mirrorless system and want to upgrade to a bigger camera, let's say you're intrigued by some of the used market right now of this camera, yes, I 100% recommend you look into this camera because I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. I just, wanted to make this video for fun because I think it's an interesting discussion because I'm going to share the things I think an FX6 Mark II needs. I'm going to share things that I want. I also have a couple things that I think are in between a need and a want, and I'm not quite sure, but let's open this discussion up. Let me know down in the comments what you think in terms of needs and wants for this camera that may or may not ever exist. So just kind of looking at a little bit of history, I believe when Sony made the Mark II of the FS5 and the FS7, they kept the same sensor. I think they just tweaked the hardware when they went from FS5 and FS7 Mark I to Mark II. Let me know if that's correct. I kind of feel like they might do the same. I also think an FX9 Mark II will come before an FX6 Mark II. That camera is older. So I love the variable ND of this camera. It's the first camera I've ever owned that has a variable ND internally, and it's amazing. I do have a gripe with it though. The ND minimum is 1/4 or 2 stops of ND. For a Mark II, this needs to start at 1 stop. There's been so many times where, I'm at my base ISO 800, it's too hot, I throw on the ND, and then it's a little too dark. I really only want 1 stop of ND, not 2. Sony, if you're watching this, that is an absolute must for the next iteration of this camera. If it's too dark, then what you have to do is bump up to the high base, which is 12,800, which is a large gap, and then I have to throw a ton of ND on there. And in my personal experience, the low base ISO is cleaner than the high base ISO, so that is kind of frustrating. Another one, and I don't know if this gets talked about enough, and I'm surprised this hasn't already been made in a firmware update, compressed 10-bit footage. My Sony FX3 has it. I love it because, again, you get the best of both worlds. You get 10-bit footage, but it's compressed, so you save a lot on space. This camera, you have XAVCI, which, by the way, is fantastic, but this camera, you only have the option of XAVCI and XAVCL. XAVCI is the all-intra 10-bit, like 300 megabytes a second for 24p. Then you have XAVCL, but that's 8-bit. There needs to be something in the middle. I'm so surprised that even in a firmware update, can you just give us like a compressed all-intra recording or something? I don't know. But Sony, we need a compressed 10-bit thing. Anytime I want to shoot S-Log3, I have to shoot 10-bit. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's so many shoots where I have to shoot S-Log3, but it's like all day, let's say it's an event or performance or something. It's just a waste of space to shoot 3 hours continuously in 10-bit. Another one, this one, everyone's complained about this. Give us some sort of audio input on the body itself. Even a 3.5 millimeter jack, having some sort of option on camera without the top handle would be great. I know maybe an XLR would have to, in the body, would make the camera bigger, but some sort of audio input on the body without the top handle would be a welcome addition. I think everyone can agree about that. All right, so my next one, let's talk about the high base ISO. Now, there's been so many times, especially when I'm on some sort of documentary project, having the high base at 12,800, it's great. It comes in clutch so many times. Now, my gripe is the jump from 800 to 12,800. That is massive. I don't know how many stops. Was it like 5 stops or something? Maybe we bring it down to 6,400. Maybe we make it a little bit cleaner. What if we steal Canon's idea of a 3-base thing? Because, like I said, there is times where 12,800 is clutch and necessary. But there's also times where the gap is too big. In my experience with the high base ISO, I have to expose a little bit hotter. I still maintain the highlights, but I try to make it a little bit brighter because the shadows tend to be a little noisier. I've still gotten great results with it. The low base is cleaner, so, maybe we could also clean up that high base just a little bit. All right, the top handle. I want a stronger top handle. I want it beefier. I want more mounting points. Maybe we can make it NATO. The mic holder on the top handle is a piece of junk. I have like gaff tape on it that I have to reapply every couple of weeks. Let's get a stronger top handle, Sony. Give us something more robust. If there was some sort of audio input, like a 3.5 mil jack or a built-in XLR in the body, I would have already bought a different top handle. I'm really not crazy about it. I added a Condor Blue top handle extension, which makes this handle stronger, more modular, more mounting points. Maybe just make something like that already built into it, because that is a gripe that I have with this camera. Another one, let's talk about circular polarizer and the internal ND. Now there's a lot of discussion about this online. When I crank the ND up a lot, I want to put a polarizer on, it just warms the heck out of the image. It is not usable. If with just a little bit of ND, 1/4, 1/8, it's fine. I use it, warms it a hair, easy fix in post, not a big deal. But when it's cranked up all the way, I just can't use a polarizer. Now I have a question for you guys. Is this a specific to a Sony FX6 problem? Does this happen with other camera systems? I actually don't know. So if it is an FX6 problem, let's maybe figure out a solution to it, unless this is just something that happens when you put an internal ND, a lot of it, with a polarizer. Anyways, let's try to figure out some sort of solution for Mark II. Let's say I have a little bit of ND and put the polarizer on. What I do is usually cool my color temperature by like 200 or 300. That usually evens it out. So I do think the polarizer is usable only with a little bit of ND. If you want a lot of ND, can't do it. And honestly, that's a bummer because I use a polarizer on every single shoot. So Sony, let's figure out a solution. Sony needs to do something about this guy. My wheel has crapped out. I'll go up by 1 and then it'll make its own moves. Look at that, I'm just going up and up, up. Nope. So that's almost not usable for me anymore. I usually just wind up using this guy or the one on the side handle. We got to do something about this. I don't want to send it in because I need this camera for work. My last need is I want a better EVF. It's flimsy, the screen isn't that bright, it's not the highest quality. Sony, let's make a better EVF, something stronger, not as flimsy, a brighter screen, a higher quality screen. What if they made it a little bit bigger? What if they did something where you almost didn't need to have an external monitor? Could you imagine a world like that? I know that's probably not gonna happen, but just throwing the idea out there. At the very least, make it stronger, less flimsy, brighter, higher quality. I'm not quite sure if it's a need. I'm not quite sure if it's a want. It's kind of both. So let's talk about it. I know the Sony Burano introduced IBIS in that camera. Previously, I thought it was impossible for a camera to have internal ND and image stabilization. Turns out it is a thing that you could have. Now, there's been times where recently I'm like, man, imagine this camera had IBIS. I just had a 24-70 on there, keeping the camera almost stock and not rigging it out all the way. Imagine just being able to do that. Camera I have built out, it's gotten a little heavier, so shooting handheld is easier. But when you have lenses that don't have IBIS, I don't know. I think it would be dope. And I'm actually interested, how is the IBIS feature on the Burano? I haven't tested that camera out. Is it a usable feature? It's just something recently I thought, I'm like, you know what? That would be kind of sweet. Based on history, I don't know if they're going to give us a new sensor for Mark II, but wouldn't it be nice if there was a bigger sensor? Something that would help us, let's say better for vertical cropping. I would love something where we could just go into a 4K crop mode. Let's say, there's times shooting a documentary or whatever it is you're shooting, you want a little bit more reach. You don't have time to switch a lens, or maybe you don't have a longer lens. Again, I don't think we're going to get that in this camera, but it would be really nice. And also then, if you have a crop mode, it opens up a whole plethora of Super 35 glass. And then if we have a Super 35 mode, it opens up a whole plethora of new lenses that we could use. It's intriguing. I'm feeling like that's more of a want out of this camera. I also don't think it's gonna happen. I hope I eat crow on that, but let's talk about things that would be nice. And you know what's interesting? Maybe some of the things that I think are needs might be wants for you. Things that are wants for me might be needs for you, or vice versa. That's the fun part of this video. Let's just keep the discussion going. I'm not gonna ask for internal RAW, but what if we had a higher bitrate, 12-bit, something with a little more color information for, you know, some of those special projects that you want something higher than 10-bit, you don't quite want RAW, but just something that gives your colorist a little bit more information. That would be nice. Again, for me, the 422 10-bit is plenty. I'm not a colorist. I pretty much religiously use Phantom LUTs. Those work great on this. Again, that's a want, not really a need for me. Could be different for you. A global shutter. That would be pretty sweet. Now, to be honest, I think the rolling shutter performance on this camera really isn't that bad. In fact, it's one of the best I've ever used. But I've only shot with the global shutter a handful of times, and I know it's better for like quicker moving stuff. I know there's gonna be people that want it, so yeah, that would be cool. I'm gonna put that as a want, not really a need, but yeah, that'd be sick. Another one, maybe another stop at dynamic range. I think this camera's already pretty good, but why the hell not? This is my want list, so more dynamic range is never a bad thing. And on that note, I am always impressed with the latitude of this camera, especially considering at the price and all the different things that comes with this. It being such a workhorse, the autofocus, the XLR, yada, yada, yada. So what do you guys think? What are your needs? What are your wants? I know this is different than any video that I've made before, kind of a bit of a rant about something that doesn't even exist and might not ever exist, but screw it, let's have fun. We're on YouTube. I could do whatever I want, and that's my choice. So let's get a convo going down below. I got some more videos coming soon, so please subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know what you think. That's about it. Got agua today. Cheers. Bye.